Good evening, everybody. I hope you're well. Welcome to part 11. It's come around so quick, I can't believe it. Somebody asked me today, how many have you done? I said, well, no, hold on, I've done 10. Gosh, done 10. So now we're on the homeward slope, if you like, or perhaps the slippery slope might be better. But we're almost there, guys, and from what I've seen today, you've been doing a cracking job. For those of you that decided this was the project for you, you've made an absolutely sterling job. Hi, Gemma. You've made an absolutely sterling job of what you've done. It's absolutely amazing. And I asked Alison for her latest picture, and if you go to the Making It Special group, you'll see her work, which is the black with the cafe fabric on, and it's beautiful. And yeah, well, and also Julie who decided to do the strip piecing of the small rectangles, and that looks stunning as well. They're all stunning, and I'm absolutely thoroughly proud of every single one of you, and even those that are going to do it and maybe they're waiting for stabilizer, for backing, for the wadding, all of that sort of thing. It's fine, isn't it? Because you can do it anytime you like. And this video, all of the videos will be on YouTube for sure under a playlist, and I posted the link to the playlist today, and it's in the featured or the pinned part of the Facebook page, or you can just pop to my YouTube channel and it's you can see the playlists on there. I've only got 2, and that's one from last year, or the 12 Days of Christmas, and then obviously the one for this year. So hi Abigail, your sale was very busy tonight. I was dipping in and out of it, and gosh, you seem very busy. Well done, it's lovely. Lots of people are going to get lots of bargains from you tonight. Yes, so yes, all of the videos will be on the playlist on YouTube, and probably that's possibly the easiest way to find them, to be perfectly honest, because they're all together. The only thing I'm going to do at some point, and it's going to be next week, is to just briefly put on the title what techniques were involved in each of the videos, and then it's perhaps easier for you to find if there's something in particular you want. So yeah, so good evening to all of you. It's lovely to have your company once again. Yeah, I can see you had fun, and I want to watch it back because I was busy setting up here and, you know, having my tea and all the usual stuff, and I couldn't quite see. Yes, you are, Gemma. I couldn't quite see what's going on, but it looked like fun, and I probably missed out on some bargains, but I couldn't. I had to get this set up and yeah, so good evening to all of you. There's lots of you watching now, which is absolutely lovely. Nicola says she's going to camp out here tomorrow to try and beat you. Good luck with that, Nicola, because it all depends on your internet connection and all that, doesn't it? Oh, Bernadette says, hi Lizzie, watching you while eating a slow cooker curry. Oh, I bet that's delicious. Jeanette says, got all my piano keys all cut out today, really enjoying the project and learning so much. Thank you. Yeah, I think we all have, in a way, haven't we? We've all learned all sorts of things. You know, I wasn't going to use the backing fabric as part of my front of the quilt, but decided after Bernie said that I should, because it does work. Then Julie did the strip piecing, and then I can't remember, somebody mentioned it or I thought of it, but anyway, then I thought piano keys. I thought that would be a great border because it's quite striking. And I suppose all of these things depend on what fabrics you've used and what colours you've used as to whether you think it needs any more oomph to it. In the original pattern, the borders are 1.5 and then 2.5, so you can stick to that if you want, or I think it was Julie, looks like she's put on a 4.5-inch border all the way around, and that really works, because I think it takes that 4.5 width quite easily. So, and also, I mean, you can add on a bit more if you want, you know, there's no rules to this. It's just the main design, isn't it? It's just the main design of it all that we've been trying to achieve every night this week, and I think we've done a cracking job. We've done really well to keep up. Now, I've had such a busy day. I haven't done any homework whatsoever. I plead guilty, my lord, of not doing my homework, but I didn't think I would, so that's no surprise. But I did give my quilt top, a really good press, so I'll show you that in a sec. So I'm ready then now to cut the rest of my piano keys, and I'm going to cut the full strips. So if you remember, we did 5 colours in width of fabric strips, 2.5 inches wide, and you need 4 for each size, so that's 8, and then you need 3 for the top and the bottom, so that's 6. So, and I'm pretty sure Nicola worked it out for me, and Kath, that we've got enough with the widths of fabrics that I did, and we did 2 of each colour. So I'm going to cut up the whole lot, because I thought I might as well, rather than try to you know, sort of work out the maths and do the counting. I thought, okay, I just cut up the whole lot, because I've decided to do piano keys all the way along rather than doing cornerstones. Okay, I thought long and hard about it. It's one of those decisions, sometimes you think, oh yes, definitely straight away, and other decisions it takes a little while and you think, shall I, shan't I? I'm not normally hesitant at all, but I thought I would have a little think about this, which is what I've done. So I'm going to do piano keys all the way along. So it's better to do the 2 sides first and then the top and bottom, and that's the case whether you're doing piano keys or just regular strips. If you want to do miters at the corners, that's a different ball game completely. You want ever so a lot more than the length of your piece. So if the quilt top is 40 inches long, you want to add on another 4 inches top and bottom plus a bit. So I would say at least 10 inches, at least, perhaps even a bit more, to be able to get that mitre. So that takes up a lot more fabric, and you probably will then have to piece your fabric unless you're cutting the length rather than the width of fabric. You'd have to cut the length, and you'd want a couple of metres to do that. So, you know, the choice is yours. You may well have that fabric. If you've been using scraps, which I know a lot of people have been using scraps, then dig around in your stash and get more scraps. As long as you've got the same colour family, surely that's going to work for you. So I wouldn't try too hard to see if your scraps all fit. For instance, the piano keys or the borders, whichever you decide to do. I'd be inclined to dig in your stash again and see what you've got. And possibly better to go slightly darker on your borders than lighter, okay, because that can be a bit wishy-washy. You need to frame your picture. That's what you're doing, you're framing your picture. So I'm going to finish the piano keys, and then we're going to talk about quilting, because obviously tonight should be about quilting, and I just haven't got that far myself to be able to do that. But we've still got tomorrow night, so depending on my day tomorrow, because it's my father's care day tomorrow, my responsibility is to go and see him and look after him tomorrow. So depending on that will depend on how much I can get done, and then we can take it from there tomorrow night. But certainly, if push comes to shove, I will do a sample piece, yeah, where we can look at different bits of quilting, and we can certainly look at the binding, because that's something that always perhaps worries people. And obviously there's two ways of doing your binding, not your binding, there's 2 ways of, yes, sorry, I beg your pardon, there's 2 ways of doing the binding, and we can talk about that as well. So and one's a lot easier than the other. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to finish cutting my piano keys. I'm going to attach them and stitch them onto my quilt top. So let me show you what my quilt top looks like so far. I think most of you have seen it, but you haven't seen it pressed. So that's what it looks like. I'll just stand up, there we go. So you can see how the piano keys are looking. I think it really brings it to life. Let's try and get it straight. Really brings it to life. I'm really happy with how it looks. And if I bring it up, you can see that it makes quite a decent size. So by adding another 4 inches on the sides and 4 inches top and bottom, we've got a you know, fairly decent little sort of wall hanging or lap quilt there, haven't we? So I think it's worked out rather well, yeah. And of course, like I say, it's I've seen what you've done, and it's all very beautiful, really beautiful. But I really wanted to stick with the yellows, because it's that time of year where I love to have the yellows you can see around me. So what does Jeanette say? If you're doing your cornerstones, would you attach the top? To be honest, it doesn't really matter. I would say do your sides and then attach the cornerstones to your top and bottom, and that way it's done, isn't it? So you'll end up, your bottoms would be a strip with a cornerstone on each end, and that would be top and bottom, and then just attach it with the quilt top and the sides put on. So yeah, I wouldn't worry. I mean, the alternative is to put top and bottom on, and then on your side pieces put the cornerstones top and bottom of your side pieces. So it's 6 and 2 3s. There's no, I don't, in my head I'm thinking there's no benefit to either. They're both equally the same. Yeah, does that make sense? Oh dear, oh dear. Right, so I'm going to get my mat. We'll finish cutting all the pieces, and like I said, I've got to add 2 onto each of the top and bottom pieces to get the correct amount. But we need to make sure that we have added the correct colours as well, just to make sure it flows. So we need to keep an eye on that. So let me just go on the overhead. There we go. Super nice shot. It's nice and out, so to speak. Again, we want to make sure that this is absolutely square. I think it looks okay where I am. So let's see what everybody's saying, because I want to make sure I try to keep up with you tonight. So let's have a quick look. We talked about the cornerstones, that's fine. Diana says, because my background fabric is fussy, I will have to wait and see what looks best. Oh, totally. And audition them. Kath says, you'll have plenty. I'm using piano keys all along too, and still some left. Yeah, I figured there were, Kath. But you know how my brain works sometimes. Sometimes I'm definitely on it, like a car bonnet, and other times it's like, whoosh, cotton wool. So we'll carry on cutting these, because I know I don't need to cut them all, but at the end of the day, the pieces I've cut can be used in other projects anyway, so I'm not going to lose any sleep about cutting all this up. I mean, you could end up unpicking this and all sorts, but why would you? Just cut them up and you can use them in other projects. So again, just make sure, let's just see, yeah, it's a lovely overhead view today. Just make sure everything is lined up. Make sure that when you look at one of your lines across your ruler, that it's following the line of the seam, at least one of them. And that way you can't go wrong. You absolutely can't go wrong. We're 4.5 inches wide, which is a really lovely size border. And yeah, you'll get a really lovely effect with that sort of width. And of course you could keep it as the pattern, as I said before. You don't have to do anything that I'm doing, it's just my suggestions. So just a reminder then, for anybody watching on YouTube in the next hour or so, don't forget that this is recorded when you see it, and it's about an hour old. because I can't record to YouTube Direct at the moment. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. I shall amend it at some point, as I keep saying. So there we are. So there's our pieces cut. So we've got plenty. So on the sides we need 4. So if I look at the side, I want to make sure that I start off the same on this side and to the other side. So if I start like that, that one's going to go at the top, and just to make sure I know it's at the top, I'm going to put a pin, and I'll know that that's the top one on the right hand side of the quilt. So I can now carry on and stitch those 4 together and then attach them to my quilt. So I think this will need another press by the time I've messed around with it. So I just need 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So put those to one side, so that's plenty. And don't forget to give them a really good press. Get those irons out. You need the household iron, you know, a big iron. You don't need, you know, the little ones that we use beside us with our stitching. You don't want to use that one. You want to use the big iron, the big household iron with the steam function if you can. So let's get you lined up there. I think I've got all my lights on. Looks a bit dull again tonight. It comes and goes, it fits and starts, this thing. Right, okay, so let's start. So like I said, this is the top one. I know it because it's got a pin in it. So I'm just going to get the next one down and put them right sides together and stitch those. Don't forget about your 1/4 inch seam allowance. You want to try and make sure that you're as accurate as you can possibly be. And if you want to do a back stitch on each, that's great, because you've got a vulnerable seam on these, all these edges now are vulnerable. And then we'll add the other one, and we'll give it a good iron with the mini iron, but as I said before, it needs the household iron really. And I just don't have the space on my table to have that as well. I've got a big table, but it seems to get full of other stuff. So just check and make sure that you've joined them correctly. So for me it's a little flowery one, and then it's a sort of little stripy one that goes on top of that. And that's perfect. Okay. Will you put a narrow border on after the piano keys? Well, I won't, Marion. I must admit I won't, because I tell you why. I always think that the binding is almost like, it's like your last opportunity, I suppose, to add maybe a depth of colour. I still haven't decided what colour binding. It's possible I might go for green, but I need to put the quilt top together and, like I say, audition a couple of pieces. But the binding is going to be 1/2 inch thereabouts wide, so that gives us a really good, almost like it's like a full stop, yeah, to the design, and that's what you need. You need a full stop to bring your eye into the design. So let's get our little iron going, and the great thing about this little iron is it does take water, and it actually steams really well. I haven't obviously put water in it, but that'd be too much to ask. So I'm going to go along the whole width now. This is our new seam, and I haven't opened these seams because there's far too many for me to worry about. And there's always a time to open seams and a time when not to open seams. Nicola, do you reckon green binding would be lovely? Not sure, not sure. It's one of those things where I need to, like, oh, was it Diana said she wants to see it, what it looks like before she really commits herself to it. Sometimes we commit ourselves to things and then we're too stubborn to change our minds, aren't we? We say, no, I said I was going to do it like that, and that's how I'm going to do it. And actually, it is okay to change your mind. So, is there anything that you've learnt? Oh, hold on, I need a bit of heat. Let's do that again. Actually, it pressed it really well cold. Start again. So is anything that you've learnt over the last 10 days and you think, actually I think I'll do a little bit more of that, that I'll you know, that I like doing that particular thing. For instance, like the reverse applique, I love the colours of that. That's why I've got it there, because it's so bright and cheerful. Is there anything about yeah, dark green? Yeah, dark green. I've got loads of green left over from when I did Declan. Yeah, so is there anything in particular that you take away? You know, perhaps the use of the micron pens, that was quite revolutionary. Maybe using a little, you know, daring to use a little bit of a metallic thread, which gives it a beautiful sparkle, rather than doing it all in plain thread or variegated. How about when we did the applique on the embroidery transfer, which I haven't finished, 'cause time, but it's something that I would like to finish, and that's something that I really enjoy doing, that particular thing. So and what else have we done? We've used all the fancy stitches on our machines. We've looked at those, and some of you hadn't really spent any time looking at those before, so that was a really good thing to do. I think some of you have tried blanket stitch, where you perhaps haven't done that before, so that was a good thing to do. So I think a lot has been achieved, and there's some things that maybe you'll go back to in the future, and maybe some things you'll think, nah, that's not for me, I'm not doing any of that. Whatever that would be. Be nice to know if there's anything has changed your mind about applique. What about when we did the turning through, when we made the little leaf? Do you remember? I can't remember what part that was now. That's what my job is, to find out over the next few days, well, next week actually, of what part that was. And that made a really neat little leaf, and that could then be like a faux needle turn in a way, isn't it? Because you've got to hand stitch it down. Well, when I say got to, you haven't got to, you can put your machine on it, but it would be an opportunity to hand stitch it. Right, so let's make sure we're putting it on the right thing. So let's go on the overhead. There we go. Right, so Marion said, love applique, have made many quilts. Oh, well done. Helena says, I love applique too, have to add some to most projects. Oh, right, oh, that's interesting. It's almost like you're going out of your way to put applique on. That's really good. Judy says, I've learned and enjoyed so many things. I'm going to watch all again and get everything ready and make many notes. Good for you. Not too many, because you just need to switch me on and listen to the waffle, Judy. You know I'm good at that. So now don't forget your key points again. We talked about this last night. So your key points will be where there's a 10-inch, so not here, not these, but the one in the middle here is a key point. It's also, you've got a key point here, because that's a 20-inch point there from the bottom, if I can bring that along. So that's an important point as well. So I would make sure that your top and bottom are attached. And then you need, well, obviously you've got a seam allowance just here. So you want 10 of these little piano keys to meet up with that seam there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So make that fit, and then you just need to ease that in. So although it looked like I was yanking that to make it fit, it fits anyway, look. And also this has a little bit of budge room because you've got all those seams, and even with the best bit of pressing, you might not have fully opened those seams up. So it's worth thinking about that, A, when you press, but also that you've got that little bit of stretch there. You can see how that looks, and just make sure that your pieces are attached where they need to be. So in other words, the halfway point on this tall flower block, it would be the 5 strips. So then if we come up this end, I'll get some more pins. Let's stick to blue ones today, that would be nice. There's the key point here is the centre of that, so that would be 5 strips. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that seam there has got to be the centre of that. Well, you could measure it if you want. I'm more inclined, I'm going to put a pin in there just to hold that fast. Let me just get another blue pin. I'm rather into my blue pins today. And then again, I would just gently ease those pieces together. And if you've got that pin there as well, you're going to get a nice straight piece of stripped fabric. I said that rather slowly because I thought I'd get myself into trouble if I didn't. So that has pinned all those crucial points together, look. You don't need many pins, but you could obviously put one in the middle of all of these key points just to make sure that you're happy. But I would just stitch each section. So we're going to stitch this bit first and make sure it fits beautifully, and then this section, that section, that section, and that's possibly one of the best ways to do it. Like I say, you could put lots of pins in and not worry about it at all. The only time I would put lots of pins in is if I was stitching circles to straights, and then I put lots of pins in. So don't forget, we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance again. Of course we are, but just in case you hadn't thought about that bit. So Carol says, she says, I haven't started mine yet, but I have absolutely loved watching every night. I've learnt so much. Well, I think it's the watching bit, isn't it, Carol? It's given us a really lovely start to 2024. Now then, I just want to point something out. I'll come back to what Carol said. Coming down this side, do you see we're fighting against these little seams here? So this is where you really want to try and use your stiletto or pokey tool of some sort and hold those seams down. The alternative is that you start at the other end and you stitch your quilt top on top. And then all these little seams will be facing the right way. Okay, but I'd rather keep an eye on my piano keys. So the cost of that is just making sure that you hold your seams in place. Okay. Hold on, what was that? Oh no, that's okay. I'm just looking at that thinking, well, that's not right. So you can see what I'm doing. And I'll never rush it. You'll never see me go at 90 miles an hour if I need to be careful. Lots of reasons. I want you to be careful. So you copy me, you're going to think, oh no, Lizzie went slow here, so I'll go slow. And we want it right. It's different when you've got up against a definite sort of time frame for these things. That's different. And also it depends on your own experience, all sorts of things, your own machine, your confidence. I hope by now you're all very confident. A lot of you just need to do it, instead of saying, oh, I'm not sure I can do that. You can do absolutely everything I have done, all of you, without a shadow of a doubt. And if I was to be sitting next to you in your happy place, in your sewing place, I would be sitting beside you saying, come on, you can do this. Come on now. Oh dear. So just make sure that your open seams stay open. And like I say, we're fighting, we're going, it's almost like you're a little salmon swimming against the tide on these seams. Strange analogy. or you're going up the locks in your narrowboat. I'd love to do that. Has anybody done that? Right, let's have a look. Daryl says, just had to reboot you. I didn't feel a thing. It says buffering. Honestly, our computers and our devices are hopeless. And John and I have been looking at phones the last couple of days because his phone is just not up to it anymore. For lots of reasons. You know, it's slow, it's not charging properly. It needs an update. And okay, yes, you could probably manage, or he could probably manage for a bit more time, but he's not going to get the same results, is he? By I'm a little bit short there. No, I don't know why. I wasn't concentrating. But with an update, obviously he'll fly. You know, his WhatsApp messages and all his emails and all of that sort of thing will fly. So sometimes you need to sort of take the bull by the horns and buy yourself a new one, if it's something that you can afford, obviously. Sometimes our devices are just not up to the mark. So there we are. So there's our second side put on. There we go. So obviously it needs a press. So what we'll do now is we'll put the three along the top. So if I hold this up to the front, let's just have a quick look. There we go. So there's the second side now. So if I can get it straight. If I lift it up, you'll see what it looks like. And like I say, it needs a jolly good press. Make sure it lies flat. So now we're going to do the top. So I'm going to make the 3 strips up that we've already cut, and then I'll add the 2 on at each end. But what I've got to do is to make sure that the 2 that I put on each end continues with the correct colours. So we'll have to have a look at that. So let's pop that down there. Oh dear me. Well, I'll keep you there just for a minute. So I'm only going to pick up 3. So I mean, I could start off as I should, you know what I mean, with the stripy being first. I'm not sure I want to do it that way though, just to be awkward. Hold on, where are we? Let me have a look. Right, let's get your opinion on this. Let's do it. Let's do it together as a team, and then I can blame all you guys. So if I made up my strips, they would look like that, yeah? So I'm thinking, do I want those 2 together? So if I did it like that, right, and then I would have to have that one and that one next to it to make that right, wouldn't I? Or do I start like that and just put those blocks on and just, I don't know, what do you think? See, now I've had to make a decision about something. So let's have a look what it looks like. Can't get it all on. I wonder if I can zoom out a bit. Let's see. Hold on. Oh yes. Not too bad. So let's do it so it's like that for the start. So it'd be like that. And don't worry that it doesn't look like there's a seam allowance because they haven't been properly pressed. Like that. Ah, see, and then up this corner, let's move it. Up this corner, it's not the same, is it? So it would mean that 2 corners, the 2 opposite corners would be like that. 2 matching fabrics. So if I was to move them along, let's do that, see what happens. Because Ideally we want kind of random, don't we? We don't want it to be too contrived. So let's just put them like that, that like that. That comes up to here. Let's just do that. And then if we added, well actually we're going to add 4 on, aren't we? That would be like that. And I think that looks better, don't you? I think I'm right in my maths. But what I'll do is I'll join all those together. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I think I'll probably just take 1 or 2 off. We'll see when we get there. Oh dear, oh dear. So let's just do that then. Ooh, that's going to be so creased by the time I'm finished. Okay. So let's get those back in some sort of order again. I think that works out better, doesn't it? Because that's a little bit more random. And like I say, and like you've suggested, yes, I could put cornerstones on. And I think, I mean, that would be a solution, but we would still end up with perhaps 2 colours the same in one corner and diagonally the same, and 2 random ones in that corner and that corner diagonally. So we'd still end up with the same problem. Yeah. So let's just put these together. So let me pop you on the side. See, a lot of these things you have to work out as you go along, unless you sit there with graph paper and you sketch it all out and you know, work out all the maths and all the colours. And but we weren't planning on doing piano keys, were we? It's just something that we added in as we went along. So I'm going to put them all on and see what happens. But I'm pretty sure I only need to lose 1. Right, so there we go. So I'm going to press these just to make sure they're lovely, and I'm a little bit far out now, guys, so but we'll keep it like that for the moment. Yeah. Right, what about making, yes, a flower applique cornerstone. Yeah, well, that was suggested last night, wasn't it? I think that's a lovely idea. But time is not on my side. But you could obviously do that. You know, I'll stick to half the plan. Well, because we weren't intending to change it really, and we haven't, not really. It's just the border. So just make sure that your pressing is beautiful, and if you want to set the seams on all of these, you do that, and you'll have done that when they're all joined together as a long strip anyway. So alright, that's excellent. Okay. So let's turn that off. So now it's just a case of this time we're pinning it now to the top or the bottom, doesn't matter which. What does this say? You could do the white with a flower head on as the cornerstone. Well, I mean, yes, obviously, yeah, or any of them. I mean, do you mean like one of these, or do you mean this little pattern here? But like I said before, that if I did it the same, I'd end up with this. This is what I'm trying to avoid, yeah? This samey, because I can't repeat it the other side. So that, you know, for me that doesn't work out. But obviously I might be wrong. I'm always open to being corrected. But I think I'd rather have a more random look all over. So I'm just making sure my seams match here. Now don't forget, some of these seams are vulnerable. In other words, they haven't been backstitched. So you want to make sure you don't rip the seam open in any way. So we need 5 across the blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's pin that to that. So it's, if you've got a 10-inch block, you want 5 piano keys for each block, yeah? So there's a block there. Well, that's the width, 10 inches now it's stitched. These are 2, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That will cover that block. So that's the maths you want to be looking at. And again, with this final piece here, we know that this rectangle is 10 inches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that seam there should go up the top here. And as long as those are matched, you're fine. And then we've got that one on the end that we don't need. So we can take our seam ripper and just take that off. And hopefully, if we flip that back, yeah, we've got a random look, you see. That wouldn't have worked if I'd put a cornerstone in, because at one end or the other we would have had these stripy ones meeting. Even if we turned it around and started from this end, we'd still get a stripy one on that corner. So for me that wouldn't work out nicely. That wouldn't be right in my head. So there we are. So I've just taken one of the strips off and we'll just pin it anyway. And now that top piano keyboard is now pinned, ready for stitching to the top of the piece. Okay, so let's get it under the machine. And then we've just got the bottom one to do. So that was 4 blocks again, sorry, 4 sets of strips again, and we just took one off. So that was nice and easy, wasn't it? A Dresden fan, yes. I mean, that would look really lovely, a nice little mini one. I mean, it's it doesn't replicate anything that's in the pattern, but there's no reason why you can't. It's your design. I think it's super. Whatever you come up with is going to look gorgeous. A white from the original block, maybe, yes, yeah, maybe. You're going to have a look and see. I would or definitely audition your thoughts for sure, because what you have in your head, you think, well, that'll be nice. When you actually put it together, it may look, particularly if it's white, it may look like a Belisha beacon. In other words, your eye will go straight to those corners where you don't want to. You want to have a look at the whole quilt. So it's one of those things where you need to audition it. But I'd already thought about my strips and how they were going to be placed. And I thought, nah, I don't want 2 matchy corners and then the other 2 not. That would annoy me. Well, I'd have to find another way. So just, if you have opened your seams, just make sure they stay open. They're easily flipped. And then we'll put the bottom one on. We're sailing, aren't we? Absolutely sailing away here. And whether you did the 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch borders, whether you've put on a 4-inch border, just a strip, you know, or have done the piano keys as I've shown you, it's going to look amazing. And think about what your wadding is going to be. So I'd already had a little think about that. And I've used bleached white cotton. So my wadding is bleached white because, of course, I've got my white fabric, which will really make the white fabric pop. So let's just have a quick look. There we go. We'll have a look on the front camera in a little while. So now we need to do the bottom. Well, I'll keep you there because we're already there. So we're going to start off again with what I call the stripy one, and we'll continue like that all the way along. So I'm going to do four sets of 5 strips. I'm just in my head, because I was just having a quiet moment in my head, can you believe it? I'm thinking with the extra, you know, with the piano keys on the sides, that makes our quilt width up to 38 inches, because the quilt topper was 30 and then we've added 2 4 inches either side, so that works out really well with the mathematics. Perfectly right now. Just took a while. So 1 2 3, this is our 4th, and I've got a couple left over, which is lovely. Now don't forget also, you need to put a label on your quilt. So the label should be made by Lizzy or whatever. You don't put that. You put your name. And then you could put 12 Days of Christmas 2023. We'll probably have to take this one off. And then maybe you want to say what it's going to be used for, whether it's going to be gifted, whether it's going to maybe it's going to go to charity. Maybe you're going to, you know, have a raffle somewhere, your WI group, and raise some money. What are you going to do with your beautiful quilts that you've made, or your wall hangings? I'm definitely going to have this as a wall hanging. It's totally my colours for this time of year. Thank you, Debbie. I had them done today. Not quite so bright as the pink. That was beginning to get on my nerves. Yeah. So let's just press these, and I think you've all done brilliantly, all of you, absolutely brilliantly. You've embraced it, and you've asked lots of lovely questions. You've had good thoughts and ideas about things. You've come up with suggestions and things that I wouldn't think of, and which has been absolutely fantastic for me. Yeah, so you've really taken it to your hearts, which is lovely, because you never know quite where these things are going to go, do you? We start off thinking, I wonder what it's going to be like, I wonder if I can do it, I wonder if this, I wonder if that, and actually you've all done brilliantly. All I could do with fixing that bit, I'll do that. So this is going to start off here. So let's get that lined up, and then so we've got our key points 2 4 6 8 10. So that seam goes to that seam, and whatever happens, we try to adjust it as we go. You've got a little bit of flexibility because of all the seams, and then you've got one long seam here. So ideally you're going to find the halfway point. Well, we know it's going to be around about there, because hopefully our tulip is in the centre. So 2 4 6 8 10. So there's our centre there, so we can pop it there. And obviously, like I say, you could put more, much more, wrong, bad English, many more pins in, Now that's going to be a bit tight. Because we've done all of these seams in these strips, you might find that you need a little bit of give there, and then this is the one that we're taking off. That needs to come over, that'll be fine. Oh, I like these flowery ones. Oh dear me. So let's get the quick unpick under there. There we go. And then that way. There we go. And that we could do with pressing that open, but we can do that right at the very end. Okay, so let's put the bottom border on. My goodness, we're flying. And then we'll have a quick look at the the layers that we make with our sandwich. So start off in the corner there. I just need to ease this in a little bit. Let's move all this. It's getting slightly bigger now. So we didn't press this seam, so you'll find that your seam for your piano keys here, the seam goes out, okay? So the inside seam here will go towards the piano keys. That's the best thing. It'll naturally want to go onto your main quilt, but I would be inclined to push that over and make sure the seam faces to the outside. I'm not sure you can see that very well. But you really do want to push that out. And then you need to think about quilting. Now the safest option is to send it away and get a long arm quilter to put it together for you. And of course I think Violet Daisy May is going on her hollybobs, so she's not available to anyone I think at the moment, but you might be able to find somebody local if they've got a long arm. Oh, just twisted that green. This is where you need your stiletto. I didn't listen to my own rules. Or you can attempt it yourself. It's not a huge piece, and I would say you do a little bit at a time. You could take each block. You don't have to look at the whole thing, so we'll have a look at that when I've got this done, this stitched on, and we'll have a look at what the possibilities are. We've already discussed a little bit of that, and we'll look at it tomorrow night. What I'd like to do is to finish off the stitching of my flowers, because I've still got my tall flower to do. If I can do that, then I can do a little bit of quilting with you tomorrow night. So we'll see how that goes. Right. So this is the last little bit now. Try and keep those seams lovely and nested if you can. Let's open up this, which is beautifully pressed, and now we don't want it to be. I'm going to do a little back stitch there just to hold it, and there's our bottom set of piano keys, and it just needs to press. Look, that will open up, just need to press. Okay. Judith says, isn't it super? All the different ideas from everyone have been food for thought. Absolutely, 100%, 100%. It does. It makes everybody think a little bit differently about what they've done, or what they can do, or what what the possibilities are. And if you were in a workshop environment, in a what should we say, in a hall or a school or whatever, you're limited by the amount of people there, and which is great because maybe there's sort of 15-20 ladies, I don't know, but if you're in this sort of environment where there's maybe nearly 100 people watching and all prepared to offer some thoughts, my goodness me, that's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. So now obviously it needs a really good press. It's been scrunched up on my desk. So let's have a look. So now we've got it. Now we've got going on this. Look at that. Gorgeous. I need to get it straight on camera. There we go. So you can see now how it looks in all its glory, but it obviously needs a really good press. And I think that's come together really well. So let's have a think. What have we got? Well, we've got about 7 or 8 minutes. I've got my stuff here. So let me just move some of my bits. There we go. And I can talk to you about what the next bit is. Now, most of you will know, so I'm not going to. I will go into it obviously in detail, but obviously most of you know what the next stage is. So let me just take some of these bits of thread off. There we go. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There we go. Okay. Right, let's see. Okay, so obviously I'm going to show you a corner because that's all I can do on my desk. So when we look at the underside, can you see you want to be able to push those seams out this way. You've got a lot of seamage going on there, and some would say, isn't it better to push it in towards your quilt? Well, yes, of course you can if you want to, because it lessens the amount of layers you've got. But for me, I don't necessarily want it to be shadowing, so I'm going to press it away from my quilt top. That's just how I would do it. But you can do it any which way you like, whatever is comfortable with you. And if you think pushing all of those seams over like I'm doing now is not for you, then don't do it that way. Okay, it's not for me to tell you all the time what to do. Just make suggestions. Yeah, so I'm just finger pressing that out so it lays flat. Okay, so that's it. That's a little bit better. So the first thing I will do now is, after tonight, is to take this away and give it another good press, and I will finish my flowers off. And obviously I've got more pen work to do. I won't on this one. I did do a little bit of pen work here, which I doubt whether you'd be able to see, but is a little bit of pen work on the back. That on its own in real life is so pretty because it's got the metallic thread on it. I don't know if I can make it sparkle, but it's so pretty. I don't want to put any pen work on it, and it doesn't look out of place to the others because I've got pen work on my leaves here, so that's worked out really well. So obviously the next stage would be to put your wadding on. Now, as you can see, this is bleached white cotton wadding or batting, so it's utterly gorgeous. It's soft. It's like compressed cotton wool. It would make Abigail feel sick if she was touching this because she hates cotton wool. But you need to, I just wanted to make sure that my white fabric stood out, and the only way I could do that was to use white wadding. Okay, so this needs to be at least, let's say, a minimum of 2 inches. Let's go really crazy and say 2 inches. I would be very happy if, when we put this down, oops, I've lost something. Oh, a pen. That's okay. When we put this down, that we're going to layer it up, and we're going to have at least that, like that. Okay, so that would be what your wadding would look like, and you're going to use 505 to adhere your wadding to your top. So you put the spray on the wadding, not your top. You never put spray on fabric, you only put spray on the wadding. So that's your next job. You need a bit of space to be able to do this, because once you start putting your wadding onto your backing, you want to be able to smooth it out. I spend my whole time when I'm putting a quilt top onto wadding is to push it out. Start from the middle, push it out. You could even glue from the middle and push it out, whatever suits you. I tend to glue the first maybe 12 inches of the top, then I roll the quilt top back. So if I can get hold of it, it's quite a good size now. To roll it back, spray the next bit, roll this back. But as I do, I'm smoothing it out. I want this to be as smooth as I can get it, so there's no wrinkles or lumps or bumps. And you would continue doing the whole thing in that process. And not until you're 100% sure that that is as flat as you can get it, that you move on to do the backing. And as I said, you want to make sure that all of these seams are pressed correctly, right? You don't want to put your wadding on, get it all looking absolutely perfect, and then you realise that you've twisted a seam. So make sure all of these seams are pressed correctly. You don't want a buckle. There's a buckle there, I can feel it. So get all of that pressed so it's lying as flat as you can possibly get it. And then once you've done that and you've adhered your wadding to your quilt top, you then want to get your backing, and this really works out with the width of this quilting fabric. It's beautiful. And you want to put this right side out. So let me get a corner here. Again, I can't show it all to you because I just don't have a big enough work surface, and my camera doesn't zoom out that far. So you want it, if you're looking at it, you want it wrong side facing you. But I'm just going to tell you something else in a sec. And you want it so it looks like that. So you've got about 2 inches for your wadding and about an inch, half an inch maybe, your backing to be bigger than your wadding, okay? And that way you know that you've got the whole thing covered. Don't even try to match the backing size to this, and don't even try to match the backing to your wadding. I'd rather you were able to see it, okay? Even if that means piecing your backing to make sure that it's covered. You don't want to start quilting and then realise that one corner is a bit off and you need to piece something. Oh, that would be a terrible shame. You'd be so fed up. How much backing fabric? I got a couple of meters, Paula. I got a couple of meters of just regular fabric, and the width was fine. Yeah, the width was fine. If you think about it, let's go back to the maths again, just so you know that this is something that I've worked out, if nothing else. So let's just get my clearer piece. Okay, so let me just move that a bit. Now then, the width of your quilt, so the width of this, okay, so from just the white to here, from there to there is 30 inches. I'll write it big so hopefully you can see it. Okay, so from here to here is 30 inches. That's 10, that's 20, so that's 30 inches. If you add on, this is your minimum, right? Okay, this is your minimum. If you add on, what would it be? 1 and 2. So if you added on 3 inches either side with your minimum, that gives you a complete width of 36 inches. Okay, if you added on a 4-inch border, which is what we've done, and 1 or 2 others have done as well, so you've added on 4, so it's a +4 and a +4 here, that gives you 38 inches. So you've got your 30 +4 and your 30 +4, so that gives you 38 inches. If you think about it, the width of our fabric is what is it, about 42, something like that, 40, 42. So you've got enough to have a little bit of an overhang either side. Shouldn't have any problems with that at all. There are other things that you can do. You could piece, you know, your piano keys, for instance. Let's just give you an example. For instance, with your piano keys, you could, if your fabric wasn't wide enough, to make a whole long strip of piano keys, put that down the centre of your backing, and you could extend it by 4 inches. Yeah, make the width 4 inches. But you should be okay. So I would say your maximum borders should be 4 inches, and then that should give you comfortably enough fabric, width of fabric, to do this. And then of course you've got this is 40 from here to the edge of the white, all the way down to here is 40 inches. So if you add on 4 and you add on 4, that equals 48 inches. So if you've got 2 meters, that's plenty. You could get 1.5 meters, I suppose. 1 meter is 39 inches, half of that is 18, so yeah, you get 1.5 meters. I always like to get a bit more, but that's just me. So, okay, so 2 meters by width of fabric is plenty. 1.5 meters if you know, you want to be a little bit more sort of frugal. You should be absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. And take your quilt top to the shop to buy your fabric and lay it out. Before you put the wadding on, lay it out, put your quilt top onto your backing so you know it's going to fit before you take it away. And in actual fact, most shops now, quilting shops, sell extra wide backing fabric. Gosh, that would be wonderful. You'd have so much fabric left over, it would be wonderful. Add to your stash. So that's your next stage, guys. So and when you come to put your backing on, I'm going to flip it, but it's not going to be so easy. Let's do it like that. So you're going to do your backing so you can see your wadding. You're going to spray your wadding, and then you're going to make sure that your backing goes over the top and you've got that, I mean, you can actually see that you've got that extra bit, and do check at all times that you've got that extra bit. And that way there won't be any nasty surprises when you're quilting and you end up with it a little bit too short on a corner or something like that. Good. Okie dokie. Well, that's really kind of brought us to a full stop. We could go into quilting, but maybe that's what I'm going to have to touch on first of all tomorrow. But what I'd like to do obviously is show you the binding and a couple of ways of doing the binding. One, as I said, is a lot easier than the other. Personally, what I would do is, if you're not too sure about your quilting, you could cross hatch the whole lot. Okay, you can use your walking foot with your quilting guide and you can cross hatch the whole lot. Okay, it would look amazing because you've got flowers, and cross hatching would look like baskets, and it would suit beautifully. That would be your easiest thing to do. Stipple quilting would look utterly gorgeous. I do love stipple quilting because that knits the whole thing together. Or you could take each of your squares and your rectangles and individually quilt them in a totally different design. So that's I think a good possibility of what I might do, okay, because I did think that in my blank rectangles here, my little rectangles, my narrow ones, I would do matchstick quilting, and I might still do that. Okay, so I would take each square individually. If you want a challenge, that might be easier for you because they're just little bits at a time and do different things. Or you could do crosshatch or stipple quilting or echo quilting. So echo quilting is just following the lines of all of your seams. So for instance, with this square, I would echo quilt maybe 1/2 inch inside to do another internal square with your quilting, and leave it at that. That's plenty. And then again, echo quilt in this rectangle, echo quilt that square, echo quilt that. The only one, well really the only ones that you might think about doing a bit more are the big rectangles. You ought to do a little bit more in those. I'd be inclined to break this up into thirds and do maybe 3 boxes if you like. I think I'd be inclined to do that. With this it's different because the flower is the whole, almost the whole length of the rectangle, but I think you could cross hatch half of that and then maybe leave this as it is with no quilting. It would be enough. It would be enough. Or quilt along here maybe, and consider your borders as well and what you're going to do with those. So have a little think about it. Print this off and have a bit of sketching. Do a bit of sketching and decide what you're going to do. Okay, so that's it for me for tonight. That's part 11. So tomorrow night we will look at a little bit of quilting, do some samples, and then I'll show you how to do the binding 2 different ways, and then that's it. You're let loose. You're allowed out to play. Right, I'll see you here tomorrow night at 7, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. It's been lovely having your company once again. And don't forget to check out the playlist. How much space between crosshatch? Up to you, Marion. 1 inch would be gorgeous, but go 1.5 maybe. 2 inch, yeah, between 1.5 and 2. 2's quite big, and you've got to get it accurate. So 1.5 to 2. Right, okay, I shall see you all tomorrow. Thank you ever so much for watching. Have a good rest of your evening. Have a fantastic Saturday as well, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.